Provided in part by Cabbage, who has helped thousands of restaurants access the financing they need. Apply online for a line of credit of up to $250,000. Learn more at cabbage.com/foodable.
Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Barron Report. We are recording live at Foodable I/O 2018 in Chicago. I am so excited to be here. I am your guest host, Donald Burns. You know, technology is no longer just a byproduct of our business today. Technology is now the core backbone of how we reach, interact, and exchange info with our customers. So in this episode, we're going to explore the future of technology and how online, mobile, social, augmented reality more and more affect the business of our future. Now, on this panel today, I'm very happy to have the Chief Marketing Officer of an online grocery delivery company here in Chicago, Peapod, Carrie Bienkowski.
Well done.
Did I do it right?
You did it
All right.
very well, very well. Good morning, Donald. Great to be here.
Good morning. Actually, Peapod is actually showing Americans how they can shop smarter, save time and money, and find the foods they want in order to eat better. And also joining us is Linda Mahler, CEO and President of FarmLogix, a company transforming the local and sustainable food supply chain by connecting buyers to producers with technology and sustainable expertise. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry it's a little rainy today.
It's okay.
All right.
It's good for the crops.
It's good for the crops.
And it's good for online deliveries.
It's very good for online
There you
deliveries, yeah. So here's what I want to do. I want to start with some questions. And here's the first one. Why do you think consumers and operators have opted in to mobile so much more today? And what areas do you think they are adopting faster in? Mobile, automation, logistics. Why don't you go first, Carrie?
Yeah, thanks, Donald. Well, it's a highly technical answer, so gird yourself. The answer is it's just easier. It's more convenient. And I think grocery is a perfect example where mobile adoption makes perfect sense based on how the consumer shops. I mean, if you think about it, putting together a grocery list, it's not a single item. And I think that is what is very different about shopping for food and groceries online versus a typical e-commerce experience. You might put two items in a basket is considered a significantly large basket in most online businesses, but in grocery, you're putting 50 to 60 items in your cart. And I think as you think about the way people shop, they're remembering items all week long. So they run out of milk. They need to add milk to the list. They realize that they need eggs to make the cookies for the bake sale next week. So I think mobile really lends itself to how people are wanting to shop. They need that instantaneous, I've remembered something, I forgot something, and they need to add it to the shopping cart. So I think that's where, people are, years ago, they literally and figuratively cut the cord. They no longer want to be attached to a desktop device. But what we find is really interesting on our business is that people are continuing to shop across all the channels. They're shopping, desktop, mobile, tablet. The average Peapod order has 6 sessions, so people are going back to their cart 6 times to update the order. You don't want to be tied to a desktop for that, right? You want to be able to do it on the train, on the bus, at the edge of the soccer field.
Well, I'd say that the consumer is actually our customer's customer. We are on the institutional side, and so really we are the people that are working with the farmers, giving them growing commitments, forward contracting for their crops. So obviously they're definitely not in front of a computer. They're on a tractor, and they're out in the field, and they're harvesting. Yeah. And so basically mobile has allowed them to communicate their yields and what's going on out in the field better than anything. And then on the supply chain side, our customers, which tend to be broadline distribution, national retailers, national food service, can then have that connection directly with those growers and really get a pulse of what's going on so that they can turn around and offer that to the consumer.
That's so cool. Yeah. And mobile is everything. And I have to circle back. I was talking to Carrie before we started. When I lived in Chicago, I used to work for Wolfgang Puck. Yeah. I used to... So don't judge me here, people. All right? But I used to use Peapod because I worked so much. It was just so easy just to get go. Back then you had to actually log in. We didn't have like mobile technology like it was today. But I had to get on the desktop. But I'd be at the restaurant. I'd be in the office at Wolfgang Puck, and I'm like ordering my stuff for delivery. Okay. Right. I'm not gonna tell anybody, but yeah.
So didn't you wish you had your smartphone then?
I wish I had my smartphone then. I could easily have done it and not have to hide in the office.
Right.
but now it's a totally different world today. All right, question number 2. What areas of technology do you think are most likely to expand in the food business in the next 5 years? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you some.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you through.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have you rank them 1 to 10. Okay?
Awesome.
Right. So, of the next areas of technology, online ordering and takeout, delivery, via services not run by the brands, mobile and augmented reality, social media around food, kind of, post, Instagram, what's next, or what do you think is going to be the next platform, and then food tech in specialty foods over the restaurant experience, right? So all of those, let's start with the first one. So yeah, you know them all. 1 to 10. 10 as the most likely to really grow and take off. Online ordering and takeout. Just give me a number.
I got to give you a 12 on that one.
A 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a 12.
It's going to blow. It's going to blow up. How about you, Linda?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's way up there. That one and the fourth one. Yeah.
Okay. The next one. How about delivery via services not run by the brand?
Ooh,
that's like, third-party delivery.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm going to give it an 8 for the next year, and then I'm going to give it a 4 for the year after that and onwards.
I'm going to start with a 4.
You're going to start with a 4?
Yeah.
Do you use any third-party delivery? I mean, for your personal?
If you consider Lyft delivering myself to various locations, now does that count?
No, it doesn't count.
No, I don't. Here's why I say it's an 8 for the next year, and because there's still momentum, and and I'm speaking primarily from the industry that I know, so grocery. The reality is, I think every single retailer is under pressure to do something online, right? Do e-commerce, do something online. And I think these third-party delivery services have enabled a lot of retailers that were traditionally brick and mortar, physical based. Right. It allowed them to, quote unquote, do online quickly because they didn't have to solve for the hardest part, which is last mile logistics, right? But when you think about, particularly in food and grocery, and Linda, I think you can speak to this beautifully, it's incredibly emotional. Food is not like purchasing a cable or a cord or a mixer online. It's very emotional. This is about providing meals. This is about nourishment to families. And the idea of outsourcing to a third party that may or may not be security checked, that may or may not be a full-time employee, to outsource the delivery of that food to a person's home, and for a retailer, that is the most powerful aspect of the brand experience. That at the door, and you remember this at Peapod, right?
Oh, I know.
There was this fantastic experience, hopefully, at the door where you had your driver.
Yes.
And they gave you their groceries. It's very emotional. Why would you outsource that to a third party?
That is the truth. Yeah, you actually get a kind of a connection with your driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got great drivers. They're the best.
I always find that's half the battle in any kind of delivery, even with food service vendors, distribution companies.
Right.
The driver is a huge connection to the guest experience.
Absolutely.
And for the customer experience is making sure that they have someone that's really friendly and warm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We've got drivers who have been with Peapod for over 20 years.
Wow.
And have, wait for it, perfect driving records.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, I think that there's certain things that you can disrupt and disintermediate, but relationships are not one of them.
That is one.
Well said.
And so I think that, so I started this business 6 years ago from my kitchen table as a single mom to 4. So I can tell you now that as we've grown, as now we're throughout the U.S. and moving into Canada, I use every online service available. I am a rabid Peapod customer. You can look me up when you get back to the office.
I'm going to make sure you're one of our VIP customers. Make sure you get our very best drivers.
I am. I use your meal kits, all of that.
Bless
and but so I've tried everything, and I think that from the consumer standpoint, when you're disintermediating the delivery, just working with institutions, you're taking a food safety risk,
right.
Because you're putting that food in the hands of someone who is the last mile, but doesn't necessarily understand. I want to know, like, how long is my romaine sitting in your back seat, right? I mean, so I think that there's a food safety risk there. That's why I don't see that growing. because I imagine there'll be some sort of regulation around that. That's a concern as far as growth there. And also, I see a lot of disintermediation even in the grocery space. I mean, there's a technology company that will do home delivery from grocery stores and other large retailers, and I use that service too, but I only do it sparingly just because they don't have their finger on the pulse of the actual inventory in the warehouse. So I'm constantly getting pinged. They're out of cherry. Would you like blueberry? And et cetera. And that's actually not efficient for me in my time. What I like about something like Peapod is you're buying straight from their inventory. When you buy it, that's what comes to your door.
You know it's there.
And you know the driver. Yeah. So I think there's some things you disintermediate, and relationships aren't one.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think mobile third party is going to trend for a while, and then it's going to start dying off because of the legalities and liability, and also too just the percents that they take. I mean, it really cuts into the profitability of a restaurant, especially a small restaurants. It's very, very hard for them.
Yeah.
So. All right, how about mobile and augmented reality?
Ooh, interesting. I tell you, I think the augmented reality lends itself incredibly well to certain industries, certain verticals. I'm probably lacking a creative enough brain to really think through how it's going to impact our industry. Where I get kind of excited is one of the things that we know that people struggle with a little bit when they are first adopting an online experience, particularly in something like grocery, where it's so different from what they've done in the past. And you hear people talking about, and I was in a fashion apparel business, online business before Peapod, and I'm old enough to remember when people had two things that they spoke truth about. One was women will never buy jeans or shoes online. That is proven to be not true.
Biggest lie in the world.
Right, biggest lie in the world. And then the other thing that was taken as truth and wisdom was that people will never, ever transact on a mobile device. So, kind of going back to this mobile insight, I think that's where we are with augmented reality. I think a lot of folks are saying, there will be early adopters, but it will be a niche proposition. And I think anytime you start to find yourself saying that, or you hear someone else saying that, you have to look back at there has not really been a single technology developed that has not become mainstream relatively quickly. So to assume that augmented reality, I struggle with it about how it's going to manifest, but I think that that's a lack of creativity on my part. And I think that if you look at the technology adoption rates and the way things have spread, what initially felt very either expensive or very niche or only for the remit of early adopters or technology-minded individuals, we've been proven wrong every single time. So I don't think augmented reality is going to be any different.
I see a big opportunity in the restaurant industry for training.
Okay.
And actually at the NRA show, there's a couple industries or a couple companies that are doing augmented reality training where you have, it's almost like the Google Glass, you wear it, and then it has like this virtual screen pops up in front of you, and it says, building the sandwich, you put this first and then this, and it actually walks you through. And so, you have to understand, the up-and-coming generation, that Gen Z,
right,
very high stimulation areas, because they're used to
low
video
attention
games,
span.
low attention span.
Yep.
So if I can have something in front of them that's like pops up and like build your sandwich this way,
Right.
I think that's a great opportunity for augmented reality in restaurants.
Yeah.
I
agree. I mean, where I start to get excited about how it could transform, our particular business, people who talk about that first time that they've done online grocery shopping, the biggest thing to get over is the fresh. And again, Linda, you know this. It is, again, we're back to the emotion. This is not buying white goods. This is about buying fresh fruits and vegetables and meat. And people want to see it. And I think that's where there are some unique challenges making that pivot to online, and the technology can be the best technology in the world, but it's hard to replace that sensory experience that people get in a grocery store. And I think some of the best retailers are understanding that the retail environment is now about experience. It's not just selling items, and you have to walk in and smell the bread, and you have to see people sampling. And I think that's what augmented reality can potentially help online do that right now the smart physical retailers are doing.
All right, how about social media? What do you think social media is going to be? 1 to 10 about around food, kind of, we're in this like Instagram era.
Yeah.
What do you think is the next one or next platform?
Linda, I'm gonna defer to you on this one first. I will go, but I have to think about this one.
Okay,
Just
Linda,
delay
you're up.
tactic.
I think I'm going to give that one between a 7 and an 8. I'd say that we do a lot of work in the higher ed space and in the K-12 space. And so we have launched several Instagram competitions. One's called If My Food Could Talk. In the higher ed space, it's called Talk Foodie to Me. And basically, students are encouraged to post what jazzes them in the food space, not necessarily on their campus or even in their school, but just out in the world. And then that data goes back to the food service companies and retailers and gives them some insight into what is of interest to the kids and the students. And so I think that we are seeing a lot of posting and use of Instagram to communicate passion and emotion and joy over food. That is a big trend. And so that's one that I think has some legs, yeah.
Well, I've got 3 teenage daughters, so I feel like keeping up with social media trends is a mandatory parenting duty.
You have to.
You have to, although I will admit I'm already behind. I think the transition is going to be towards video versus static. So I think social media is pervasive in our lives, full stop. So to say that social media is going to become an even bigger factor, I'm not sure it could be a bigger factor when you look at the number of social media outlets that are out there, their penetration, the number of, the billions and billions of people who are using the various different platforms. I think what's changing is the content and the content that people are engaging with. I think it's not, and I think that this is true for how people are ingesting content, but I think it's also true of how brands and companies are needing to create content that is going to engage on social media platforms. And I think what we're seeing is the death of static content. I think it's going to be about video content. It's going to be about better storytelling that video enables you to do.
So of both your brands, you're probably both on social media,
Yep.
correct? What's probably your heavy hitting social media platform?
Right now, Facebook, just because of sheer size and scale, Facebook is still number one. But we are seeing huge amounts of interest on Instagram because we tend to find the people that really want to engage with that type of content in that medium or on Instagram. So the food, the recipes, the short form videos, that's where they want to engage with that kind of content. So it's a great channel for us.
How about you, Linda?
Instagram as well. I mean, mostly because what we do is so seasonal,
Right.
and so the more that we can post quickly changing relevant content, the better. Yeah.
Very cool. And last of all, food tech, kind of in specialty foods over the restaurant experience.
Gosh, Donald, I'm going to put that back to you, Donald, as a restaurant guy. What do you think?
Food tech over specialty. Well, what do you think, Linda? I'm going to throw it back to Linda.
All right.
You're going to toss it to
Well
me?
done.
I'm going to toss it to Linda.
We are at a ping pong place
We are
today,
at
so
ping
that
pong,
makes
but we're at Spin Chicago.
that would make sense.
You hit to me, I volley
Right.
it back over to Linda.
Okay, this is the one that I'm going to give a 12.
All right.
All right. So basically, I think that when we look at specialty as a company, we're looking at, well, as we were discussing, Gen Z. And
Right.
I think Gen Z is a generation that has a huge voice, and I just so admire Gen Z's voice.
Yeah.
And that voice is demanding acceptance. It's demanding being heard. And the thing that's complex about that voice is everybody's voice is different. And there is a demand that everybody's individual voice is respected. And so I think, it began with how we're educated, where we live, who we love, and now it's entered how we eat. And so I think that when we look at our large customers, meeting that demand is really complicated. If you are an Aramark, how are you going to be able to satisfy the vegan on this campus and the person who wants sustainable seafood on this campus, et cetera? And so what we've done is we now have the industry's largest search engine for local and sustainable products, but it's searchable completely in a bespoke way. You can decide what local means to you by mileage or by state. We have 85 sustainable attributes that we filter purchasing through so that people can get back results on what's important to them and where they can find it. And so like when you say specialty, I mean, specialty products are part of that search engine, but what's really special about specialty is the customization. And I think there's going to be a lot of technology and development around being able to accommodate and listen to that voice and deliver on that customized experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think my observation is that people don't want technology in their food, but they do want to use technology to change the relationship that they have with food, if that makes sense. And so let me give an example. I think that we have seen, we've got a feature on our site that lets people filter by. We have 16 different nutritional filters. So if you're gluten-free, dairy-free. And it's really interesting that every year we look at what people are searching for because we have a wealth of information, and we actually see the food trends as they happen, if not a little bit before they happen, because you start seeing people searching for certain items. 3 years ago, it was red quinoa, not just quinoa, red quinoa. So it's really interesting, and we're constantly interrogating our search results because our customers are telling us they tend to be early adopters. They embrace technology. They tend to be on the cusp of food trends. So we're constantly looking at our own search results to see what people are looking for and making decisions about new items that we want to bring on board. But the other thing that we see, and it was people starting to search for keto, paleo, Whole30. So it's not just about I want it to be low. It's no longer low fat, low sugar, low sodium, right? People are really sophisticated in terms of the nutritional aspects. And Linda brought up a great point. This Gen Z, they are insatiable for the provenance. They want to know not just what it is, but where it comes from down to the farm. And I think that's what Linda and her organization of FarmLogix has done brilliantly, is that they have brought that storytelling and that local provenance to scale. And that is something that people are not just wanting, but they're demanding more and more.
Oh, yeah. No, it actually is a demand. You have to have transparency and authenticity. You have to be very, very clear. All right, so the last question. Do you think customers will continue to embrace tech, use around food, or will you think it's going to kind of wane as the issues of privacy affect consumers and operators willing to engage? And do you also see them getting into beverages at all?
On the first question, nothing will slow down. Nothing will slow down. It will only get faster. On beverages, absolutely. There's no reason why the same trends, and in fact, I think we're already seeing it. One of the trends that we're seeing is that low alcohol or no alcohol. So I think that this is reflective of the trend around making slightly healthier choices. Is that a technology story? Not so much, but I think it's reflective of the way people are making decisions about the food and beverage and the role that it's playing in their broader lives, and people are wanting healthier lifestyles.
Peapod delivers. Do you deliver alcohol?
Absolutely, we do, and it makes a lot of people very, very happy. Within the state of Illinois, we are not yet able to cross the border.
Not yet.
Yes.
Soon.
As soon as possible.
Soon. I think Amazon's trying to get into that too.
Yeah.
What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, no, I think technology is going to continue to scale for all the reasons we just discussed. Is that if technology is what allows us to buy what we want when we want it, we're going to continue to use it. And if there are security and privacy issues, it has nothing to do with the food. And that's a prevalent issue with anything that you would buy online. Where we see concerns about privacy are at the farm level. We actually were just at NRA yesterday, and we were talking to a dairy farmer, and he was complaining adamantly about not wanting drones over his land. I think that we're going to see some pushback on that type of technology. I know that we run some, logistics software. We have logistics software for broadline distribution. They're very afraid of sharing pricing, so we have like a price to pound conversion algorithm in our software that protects pricing. So I think that as long as buyers and sellers feel protected, and there are certain things they're willing to share and they're protected from what they don't want to share, we'll continue to see growth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. It was an incredible, great to meet you, great conversations all about the future of tech and food. And to our audience, I want to say, please check out our other Foodable I.O. sessions available on Foodable, Foodable Plus, iTunes, and on Amazon.
Thank you, Donald. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Don. Thank you.